What's going on, everybody? You're tuning into another episode of 10 Minutes. I am your host, Tim McCarthy. Today we have on a mental health advocate, photographer, straight up lumberjack, and author of the book, The Happy Hotline, which is available now for purchase on Amazon. The Happy Hotline is a dark psychological novel that deals with mental health and the destructive actions man will take to find meaning in an absurd and lonely world. Joe Kuttler, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Now,
Appreciate
I kind of threw in that lumberjack thing. So, can we talk about that real quick? You're like a Ron Swanson in real life. You like building houses and stuff.
Yeah, I'm doing my best. Doing my best. Yeah, I tried the college thing. Really, kind of decided it wasn't for me. I like being outside. I like working with my body. Yeah, so I've gotten into the farming game. Done done some of that. Now I'm doing timber frame building up in Western Mass in the mountains out here, and yeah, I really enjoy it. It's a good way to use your body, use your brain, do a little carpentry, a little math. Yeah, it's a great time.
Yeah,
Okay.
we need more people like you because they don't teach most of that in high school. I'm like a huge wuss when it comes to that type of stuff. Like every time I pick up a piece of wood, I just feel like I'm going to splinter right away. So you're 10 times more of a man than I am. So I appreciate you going out there and getting that shit done.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hopefully we'll build something together one day.
Yeah, that would probably be a doghouse.
Yeah, it's something. It's a start.
All right, so before we get into the book, can you tell us a little bit about you and what led you to write such a book?
Yeah, for sure. Where do I start? So I guess start with my dad. My dad's a journalist. So I grew up around the written word for sure, appreciating it. Um, and yeah, I think it's really, really special that I mean, he's gotten to write. He's a freelancer. He's gotten to write for the New York Times, for People Magazine, for Jerusalem Post for a long time. It's really special that I think hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people have read his stuff over his career. Um, I also think it's kind of a cool legacy thing to, put something out that's printed and, maybe he'll pass on one day, but I'll have, newspapers and stuff that he's written and he'll kind of leave a physical lasting memory of himself, which I think is really cool. So I think that's kind of what got me onto the writing thing when I was maybe 18, starting to think about it. And then in the last few years, I've kind of tried to concentrate more on the writing and commit myself more to it. Um, yeah, so I could talk about the story, the idea for this book if you like.
Yeah, of course. A quick question: when you're outside lumberjacking, do you keep a piece of paper on you for writing down ideas?
It's a good question. I feel like, I mean, I got the iPhone. The iPhone's kind of the notepad of the 21st century. But a lot of the time, my writing process is just kind of walking around and just like going for long walks and just any ideas I get, kind of fleshing out chapters. I'll write them down, and then I'm never really sitting down to a blank page. I kind of already have all these notes about things I want to happen, and then I can start from there, and then kind of just jump into it. So
Yeah,
definitely being moving is good for the creative process, I think.
yeah. Body motion stays in motion. You get your brain working, ideas coming. Yeah, I like it. I don't know why I assumed you didn't have an iPhone. Like you just had pieces of paper in your pocket, just ready to go. But
I
okay,
mean, that's something I aspire to be for sure.
yeah, for sure. I love it though. I love it. Well, actually, let's jump in the book right now then. So I know that you're supporting the NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and you'll be donating $1 to them for every book sold, which is awesome, man. I really appreciate that. And the NAMI does some great things, so you picked a real great organization. But yeah, let's talk more about the book and how you got to that point and why you made a book like this.
Yeah, for sure. So, when it comes to NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, one of my good friends, his brother, who I've become friends with as well, is a big mental health advocate. He had some issues in late high school, early kind of college ages with mental health and mental illness. I know they helped him a ton when he was hospitalized for kind of suicidal ideation and proclivities, I guess you would say. Um, so really appreciate the organization. I know they do amazing things for a ton of people. So I wanted to help contribute to that through the book. Um, yeah, so how I came up with the idea of writing the book. Um, I actually had this little book of challenges that it had some cool stuff in there. One was like draw a self portrait every day for 30 days. One was like look at one news story from multiple news sources and kind of evaluate the biases and the different kind of outlooks that each one had. And one of the challenges was to pick your most deeply held belief and then try to challenge that. So my most deeply held belief, just the way I was raised, being Jewish and kind of religious, and the way my parents raised me, just who I am, is that I deeply believe that life is worth living. There's nothing like I believe that God created the world. He put me here for a reason, and it's my job to kind of figure out that reason and to live in a meaningful way, right? So that's just something that's intrinsic to who I am. I think that life's absolutely worth living. So the book is kind of trying to take the opposite approach to that and challenge that idea. So like, what would it be like if my attitude was that life is not worth living? So the idea kind of just came to me about like, oh, suicide hotline operator. Obviously, like he's trying to convince people not to live, and then the book was kind of trying to flesh that out. Like, what would that look like? What would his approach be? What would his arguments be? Like, how could you just get the most nihilistic you could get? And so that's kind of what the book's about. It's about this mental health, this suicide hotline operator who he accidentally leads a caller to commit suicide, and then he has this epiphany where he's like, "Oh, damn! Like this guy was suffering and miserable and going through all kinds of pain. Maybe it's a good thing that he killed himself." And then he just goes on this crusade of trying to convince everyone to kill themselves. And then the kind of I start a battle kind of where another character comes in and kind of figures out what he's doing and tries to stop him. So then you get kind of the good versus evil, is life worth living versus not battle. Yeah, so that's kind of the ideas for the book, how it came about.
When I looked at the book at first, and I don't like judging books by its covers, but it's like that could be like almost a horror movie. But then I'm like, you know, that can be turned into like a psychological thriller, which is very interesting. I like that. So what was the inspiration by the other character Joseph? Where'd you get that from?
Yeah, so Joseph's the guy. So Jay's the suicide hotline operator.
Yep.
Joseph's the guy who's going against him, and um, Joseph is, I guess he would kind of be the more optimistic me and the more truer me, like for who I am, and kind of represents that the the me that believes that life is worth living. So I kind of he starts kind of behind the ball, and he actually had called in to Jay before Jay had his epiphany, and so Jay had saved him. So he feels this indebtedness to the this depraved suicide hotline operator, and he kind of his little puppy dog in the beginning with him, and is like, "Oh, you're my hero, you're my savior, you're the reason why I'm still here." And then yeah, then he kind of starts to slowly realize that, Jay's kind of turned evil. And so he realizes he has to stop him because he's just convincing all these people to kill themselves. Yes, I guess the impetus for the character is just maybe a deeper sense of myself that maybe like in going into the challenge of writing this book, I had to diminish it a little bit and kind of take a humble approach to that. Like maybe I am wrong, and then I think over the course of the book, he kind of strengthens as I kind of grapple with these nihilistic ideas and eventually, hopefully, come to a point where I can go back to my original thought being right, but kind of through the battle of those kind of intellectual questions about whether life is worth living.
Was it tough doing a topic like suicide when you started writing the book? Were you like nervous about how that could be perceived? Because it is a touchy subject to go over.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wrote a forward called "Please Don't Kill Yourself," and yeah. So I mean, I wrote the book. It wasn't really in my process while I was writing the book. I was just like, all right, I'm going to tackle this issue. I was personally in kind of a darker place when I wrote it. I was coming off a pretty painful breakup. I had a lot of fears. Like my parents were divorced. Both of their parents were divorced. So I think there's a lot of fears that I'm kind of destined like to keep living this family legacy out of like not finding love and not having these relationships. So I was in a pretty dark place for myself. Um, so I kind of used the book just to as a cathartic, just like write it out, back grapple with these questions. Then after I had the book, I was like, and I want to say like I think the book's entertaining, like it's satirical, but it definitely gets dark and it'll like smack you across the face a few
Yeah.
times. I think. Um, but yeah, so then when I was thinking about like publishing it, I definitely had this fear that like even if one person read it and took it in the wrong way, either because I didn't write it in a well enough way, or because maybe just the place they were in, they misinterpreted it. Like, I don't want to have that on myself, and I don't want to put that into the world that someone would succumb to the darkness that I'm talking about. But then the argument against that, and what pushed me to publish the book, is that I think that I think that a lot of people are in really dark places, and so it's the opportunity cost of not publishing is. I mean, it's what you do with your podcast is just putting yourself out there and your experiences and starting the conversation around mental health. I think it's a very powerful thing, and it's amazing. Once you when you talk to people about mental health and you open, it's kind of like the suicide door. Once you breach that this kind of dark area, it's amazing what people will start talking and opening up to you about, even just like depression and anxiety and like just like smaller things that I mean, depression, everyone goes through it at some point in their life. Some people have it in more chronic ways than others. But once you broach certain topics, I think everyone's rushing to kind of come to you because they've been holding this stuff in, they've been waiting to talk about it, and it's just kind of a little taboo. You can't really talk about it. So that's definitely the goal of the book is to kind of really go to that dark place and say, a lot of people are here. A lot of people are really struggling and living really painful lives, right? So then once we can get to that dark place, we can talk about, why is that? And then we can talk about what can we do about it, right?
I have so many questions. I'm loving this interview. Um, what does mental health mean to you?
That's a great question. It's such a hard. I mean, to me, I think that it's such a broad phrase, mental health, that like if you take 100,000 people, you'll get 99,999 different answers. Like, if not 100,000, it's just it's tough. So for me, I think it boils down a lot to. Well, I guess I'll start with. I would say we were talking about this before, where there's kind of a differentiating factor between mental illness and mental health, and so I would say I've had. I mean, thank God I'm blessed. Absolutely. I've lived a great life. I haven't even as I was going through this book and I was in this really dark place. Suicide was always more of a kind of a concept to me than something like it was like I think most people probably, maybe I'm wrong, have days where they're like, damn, like life sucks. Maybe the world would be better if I wasn't living. Like maybe if I wasn't living, I wouldn't have to go through all this bullshit. Like I think a lot of people probably have those days where it's like it'd be easier if I wasn't alive, but like it's not an actual real thing that they're considering, right?
Yep.
So I've never really, truly, genuinely considered suicide, and I'm very thankful for that. I would say that I've had a little window into kind of what mental illness is, and it's one of the chapters late in the book. This guy talks about this experience that I had, one of the characters, and so I've actually had two. I think it's called a drug-induced psychosis from just marijuana. Um, I've smoked maybe like I don't know 50 times in my life, 100 times, and two of those times I became psychotic. So the first time I was kind of able to sleep it off and I had friends taking care of me. And then the second time, I'm happy to talk about it. It was a crazy, wild ride.
Yeah, please.
But I think I was psychotic for something like 24 hours and ended up in the psych ward. Um,
Really.
so I would say I've had kind of like a little peek into the window of mental illness, but then like all I have to do is just not smoke marijuana, just like not light the next joint and I'm fine. That's not something I have to battle with. So, if it's like whatever it is, schizophrenia, bipolar, any other mental health issue, to have either that on a day to day basis or the fear of kind of falling into that psychotic state on a day to day basis, like I can't fathom, I can't imagine that because I'm just not in that place, thankfully. So when you get into mental health, my take on it is to me, it's a lot involved around kind of meaning in life and community. So I talk in the forward about Viktor Frankl, who wrote *Man's Search for Meaning*, and he was a concentration camp survivor, psychologist, um, and so he said that the man's most um, essential aspect of living is the will to meaning, right? And that was in contrast to, you had Friedrich Nietzsche, who said it was the will to power, and Sigmund Freud, who was saying it's the will to pleasure. And so Frankel says the will to meaning, and what he went through Auschwitz and all the concentration camps, and what he found was that the people who survived were the ones who found meaning in their struggle, the ones who could hold on to their hope and to say, fuck the Nazis, like we're gonna get through this and we're gonna make it out and we're gonna, have kids and build to the next generation. Those are the ones who survived. Um, so then kind of when you look at our day and age, where like thankfully, obviously, don't have the Nazis, or at least they're not in power. Maybe there's some on the fringe.
Yeah, fuck them too.
Unfortunately, yeah, fuck them. Yeah, hate to see it. Hate to see it.
Yeah.
So if you compare it, like obviously we're not going through the Holocaust, but we still go through our day to day lives, and we still suffer just like people suffered in the most extreme circumstances. So when you look at suffering, what Viktor Frankl says is that suffering's okay and you can bear through it as long as there's meaning in the suffering, right? Like, I mean, today's Mother's Day, right? If you look at a mom, she's not sleeping much in that first year, right? She's miserable a lot of the time. But, and thanks to my mom and thanks to all the moms out there, like they're okay with that suffering and with being miserable on 3 hours of interrupted sleep every night, because there's an amazing amount of meaning with having your baby. Like that's such a special connection, such a special thing to bring life into this world. And so one huge aspect of mental health is just having meaning. That if you look at depression, if you look at anxiety, if you look at all those issues, if you have meaning in your life, that's not going to fix your schizophrenia. It's not going to fix bipolar, right? But I think it'll help you battle through. And then the other side of it for me is community, and that ties into meaning greatly. Is if you have community around you, and I think people so often find their meaning in community, right? And they find, just like, I mean, so I was traveling last summer in Europe, for I just backpacking around like by myself for 3 months. And my bar for having a good day was if I had one good conversation with someone, just like at the train station, grabbing a beer, whatever it was. If I had like one good 15-minute chat at a train station with some guy, like that was a day to me. And I think that that's really what humans are. It's like we find meaning in those human connections, right? And so, like I was saying, if you're going through these mental health challenges or mental illness challenges, if you have people around you who know what you're going through and you can share your life with, and more importantly, I think who you can help in their struggles, I think that can do great things, sure. So that's kind of I guess that's my approach to it.
I love that whole answer. That's perfect. That's like so deep. Like you said, there's so many different meanings to other people, and just yours was great. Thank you for sharing with that. Um, to go back to the book a little bit, and there's always two sides of this. If I was an author, I would be so like waiting for like the first review or first critique. How do you deal with
Yeah,
criticism as an author?
it's a good question. I guess I'm still like in such an early stage of my, I guess, authorial career that like I guess I haven't had to play that game much yet, but
Yeah.
honestly, I'm kind of looking like to me, it hasn't really hit home that I'm a real author yet, or that I've like published a book. So I'm kind of looking forward to my first negative review. It's like, oh damn, like that person like read my whole book and it upset him enough that he took the time to write this negative review. Like, and I'm just like, I mean, there's definitely fair criticisms. Like, I'm not a
Yes.
perfect author. I'm not John Steinbeck, but yeah, I guess, like, I mean, they say like what do they say? Like all publicity is good publicity. So like,
Yep.
someone took the time to read my book, like, that's a good start. Yeah, I mean, I just have to have faith in kind of the energy I'm bringing into the world and in my skill and my effort that I put into the book, and yeah, I guess it'll be an interesting thing to grapple with. Hopefully, one day I'll have the privilege of having negative reviews.
It's a rite of passage, I feel like, because with my podcast, I'm like on Apple, I'm 4.9 out of 5. I have like one star review,
Is
and I
that
was like, you know
one?
what? I
Yeah,
needed that. I needed to be brought back
yeah,
down to earth.
for sure. What makes it real? I would rather a 4.9 over a 5.0 any day of the week,
Yep.
10 times out of 10. that makes it real. It's like if it's 5.0, it's like, oh, this guy's mom gave him 5 stars, like
Yep.
good stuff.
Yeah,
You need that
exactly.
one negative review.
See, it's like your book, Good versus Evil. You need like that one evil to keep you in check.
For sure, for sure,
I was talking to you
absolutely.
about this before. The cover of your book, it's like a clown, and his head is a little bit cloudy, it looks like, and he looks like he's on the phone. But I said I perceived it as he was committing suicide. Yeah, right there. If you're looking this on YouTube, it kind of looks like he's taking a gun to his head, to be bluntly about it.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting take. So, I mean, the conceptualization of it was the clown's on the phone, and then if you can look really closely, and there's a guy on the bridge, and he's on the phone, and he's kind of contemplating whether to jump or not. Um, yeah, but I mean, that's definitely a good take, and I think art is, it is whatever people see it is. So if that was your take, maybe that kind of gets into the negative connotation of the clown and the suicide hotline operator in the book of yeah, of just being in this negative, horrible place trying to convince people to kill themselves.
Did you do the artwork on that?
No, God, no, no, no. But I worked with a good friend, Sarah Silverberg, amazing artist, and it was great collaborating with her. And we kind of fleshed it out over a couple of months, and then yeah, she did an amazing job. Yeah, I'm really, really happy with how it came out.
You seem like a straight line drawer for cutting wood or something.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's about the extent of the skill. We were trying to learn in the timber framing class this week how to do the drawing and perspective lines, and it was all I could do, even with like a ruler, just to keep it straight. I'll keep to the words for sure.
I can't even draw a straight line with a ruler myself. I have
Yeah,
no artistic abilities with my hands at all. I'm all voice. I'm all voice.
yeah.
Um,
Hey, well, it's been good listening to you for sure.
what we kind of went over this already, but I'm going to ask it more direct for people listening. What do you want to get across to your readers with this book?
It's a good question. I think what I'm hoping with the book is, for one, I guess my own journey with grappling with kind of the dark side of life. I hope that maybe other people have gone through it, or people who haven't gone through it but who have friends or family who are going through it. Um, Maybe it can be a good window for them just into my experiences and my path, and hopefully they can connect to that and gain from it. Um, yeah, I guess the main thing is just kind of putting myself out there. Really, I mean, with this book, um really just, I mean, a lot of these experiences, the first chapter is just like how I was feeling, like coming off the breakup, and it was like myself, or a version of myself, calling in, going through these painful times. So I really tried to bare my soul as much as I could in the book, and just get to as vulnerable of a place as I could. And yeah, I hope that that'll resonate with people, and people will be able to connect with it. And then, yeah, I guess on a larger scale, hopefully, it'll be an opportunity for people to have these conversations. Like, I read this crazy book about suicide hotline operator. It's getting people to kill themselves. Like, what do you think about that? Like,
Yeah.
and then hopefully, people have these conversations. Like, yeah, I think most people probably, well, a lot of another reason I kind of wrote the book is that suicide. So the epigraph I have of the book, the quote I started with is from Goethe, the German author. And his quote is, "Suicide, however much may already have been said or done about it, is an event of human nature that demands everyone's sympathy, and it should be dealt with anew in every era." And so I think when you think about suicide, it really feels like, and statistically, it seems like it bears out that we're doing a pretty bad job of keeping our people alive. Like, people are not, they're struggling so much that a lot of people are committing suicide these days. And so I was reflecting on that, and I wrote about it in the forward. Like, why is that? Why are we doing so much worse than our ancestors did? Right. And I think to me, a lot of that boils down to the community aspect, where, Nietzsche is talking about. He's famous for his God is Dead thing. He's writing about that in the 1860s or something around there. And so I think once the Western world kind of moved past religion, we've had a very hard time replacing it in terms of community, because religion if you're going to your church or your synagogue once a week at least, that's an amazing place just to see, your neighbors and to build this community. And there's a lot of different practices around funerals, about around weddings, and all these different life events that bring people together. I think that as the Western world has gotten more atheistic, I think our communities have really degraded, and people just don't have those human connections that make life worth living. And so to me, that's one of the main things that I'm passionate about. I mean, I love farming, I love building, and my dream is kind of bring those two together and start a farm somewhere and bring people together and just get people outdoors and working as a team, for common goals, putting up buildings and growing vegetables or whatever it is. Um, yeah, but I mean, it's kind of crazy how poorly we've been doing in those aspects. So that's definitely my biggest goal in life and in the book is to hopefully build community and just bring people together.
My next question was going to be why should people buy the book, but I think you already nailed it on the head. So people out there, go on Amazon to buy the Happy Hotline. All right. How long did it take you to write that book?
It's a good question. I spent about 3 months doing the first draft of it with some. I was living with some buddies in Ann Arbor, in Michigan, and then I kind of sat on it for maybe a year or so, and then I spent another 3 or 4 months just reading it. I don't know, anywhere between 50 and 100 times, just editing it and ironing it out and getting it till I was really completely happy with it.
How proud are
Yeah,
you of it?
thank you. Oh, how? I thought you were saying you were proud of me.
Well, I'm proud of you too, man. Dude, between being a photographer, lumberjack, mental health advocate, like you do it all, man. I'm very proud of you.
I'm trying. Appreciate that though. Yeah, I'm definitely proud of it. I think that yeah, it's been amazing. I'm starting kind of with friends and family, getting it out to them and trying to do the marketing game. And I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
yeah, it's been great. It's been great having people text me about different parts they are in the book and different parts that are hard for them to get through. And yeah, it's been great. Kind of just putting it out there and yeah, and getting people's reactions for sure. It's been
Fantastic.
good stuff.
Let's wrap up a little bit. And I do this with all my guests. If you had to be like, say, like you were a wrestler, boxer, whatever, you came out to a ring to a crowd of people, what theme song would be playing for Joe Cutler?
Yeah, for sure. It's a good question. You think in the kind of the WWE fighter terms. To me, like I grew up on baseball, so I'm out all about
Ooh,
the batter
okay.
walking up. So thing is, like I love the old like Bob Dylan, Paul Simon, like the old guys. And if I'm facing like a 95-mile-per-hour fastball, I don't have much chance of hitting it. So I think I probably go with some Bob Dylan song and just like get the pitcher confused a little bit. Like that's not a pump up song. Like, what's this guy doing?
Yeah.
There's one song I like. It's called "Not Dark Yet." I guess it goes well with the
Yeah.
themes of this book. Yeah, so I'm hoping that the pitcher gets confused and throws me a walk, and I can kind of trot down to first base with that one.
Yeah, you're very chill. You're very relaxed. I can see you walking up and laying down a bunt, but then you just walk to first and
yeah,
you're safe anyway. You know what I mean?
yeah, hopefully.
All right. And what are three things that you're grateful for today, Joe?
It's a good question. Well, it being Mother's Day, got to definitely family and friends. My mom, big support. The people in my life, absolutely. They're one of my good friends as I was writing this book. Um, and as I was kind of just going through this dark time after going through the breakup, was he gave me a great piece of advice. He's like, you gotta take everything as a blessing. Whatever it is, you can only take it for the best. And yeah, just having those people around me who care about me is such a special thing. Just having even one person, if not many, who care about you and genuinely, you know, see that you're struggling and want to help you is an amazing thing. So absolutely, it's got to be what I'm most grateful for. Um, Definitely grateful for my body and my health and being able to do these cool, building stuff and farming and getting to be outdoors. Yeah, and the freedom to travel and go out to cool parts of the country and the world. Yeah, I mean,
Perfect.
I could spend hours
Yeah.
just talking about what I'm grateful for. I mean,
Yeah.
very
Part two,
blessed.
the part two, the Joe Cutler thankful, grateful hour.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
I
just
meant
1 hour might not be enough, but
yeah, I meant to say this earlier. Divorced parents make the best kids, man. So I'm with you on that.
yeah, there you go, there you go. There's definitely, yeah, I guess it depends. I mean, I was very lucky that my parents were very amicable about it. They very much care. I mean, I know people can get brutal with it, absolutely. So I'm very, very fortunate that my parents still put us first, me and my brother, and yeah, it's makes for an interesting. The best is the homework excuses. You always, I never did homework once. As a kid, I was like, oh, I left my math homework at my mom's house. What's the teacher gonna say? What's it like? Oh, like, I mean, there's nothing you can say to that. So that was definitely a good excuse growing up for sure.
You're a very smart man, my friend. All right, everybody, go out there, go to Amazon, buy the Happy Hotline. Joe, where can everyone find you on the internets?
I don't do too much social media and stuff, but I have a website, joekuttler.com. Yeah, you can find the book on Amazon, and yeah, love to hear any reviews or responses people have about the book, and hopefully, yeah, we can all kind of come together a little more in the world and work on fixing this mental health issue that a lot of people are going through. So just help each other out, and hopefully one day at a time we'll get to a better place.
My favorite lumberjack, Joe. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely chat again soon, my friend.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Round one, fight!
All right, hopefully you know the deal. 2 out of 3, rock, paper, scissors. You ready for this, pal?
Yeah, I've been studying. We'll see how we do.
Then you know that I'm not doing pretty well. All right, I'm gonna close my eyes. You call it rock, paper, scissors, then shoot. All right.
All right, go pretty quick. Ready?
Yep.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Ooh, 1-0. 1-0. Let's go.
Rhythm. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Ooh, both
Two
rock.
rocks. 2 rocks.
There again. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Ooh.
Man.
You win.
Man, I was studying your videos and you still got the W.
I needed that. I needed that big. So thank you, Joe.
Professional level.
This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. If you are feeling suicidal, please dial 911.